Welcome back to Mr. Coder Explains. We're on a journey through history, examining the world wars. Last time, we dissected the intricate web that led to the outbreak of World War I, highlighting the crucial roles of nations like Austria-Hungary, Serbia, Germany, and the Allies. We explored the assassination that sparked the conflict, the entangled alliances, and the mounting tensions that set the stage for one of history's most devastating wars. Now, we delve into the heart of the conflict, the events of World War I. World War I, often termed the Great War, was a global conflict primarily fought between two powerhouse alliances. On one side, the Central Powers, primarily Germany and Austria-Hungary, and on the other, the Allies, led by France, Russia, and the United Kingdom, later joined by the United States. The war broke out in earnest with the Battle of the Marne in September of 1914. Here, the French and British forces successfully halted the German advance towards Paris. This battle marked the beginning of a stalemate that would last for 4 years on the Western Front. As both sides dug in, trench warfare became the grim reality of this conflict. Soldiers lived, fought, and too often died in these muddy, disease-ridden trenches. It was a brutal and harsh existence, a world away from the quick, glorious war many had imagined. The war was also a proving ground for new technology. The tank, for instance, made its battlefield debut during this war. Initially developed by the British to break the deadlock of trench warfare, these mechanical behemoths soon became a common sight on the battlefield. Airplanes, too, were used in warfare for the first time. Initially employed for reconnaissance, they soon became weaponized. Dogfights between opposing pilots became a new form of warfare in the skies. The roles of the major countries involved cannot be understated. Germany, as the primary force of the Central Powers, fought on multiple fronts, while the United Kingdom, with its vast empire, provided resources and troops from across the globe. France, bearing the brunt of the war on the Western Front, fought with a desperate courage, while Russia's involvement in the East tied up significant German resources. And of course, the entry of the United States in 1917 provided a much-needed boost to the Allied forces. The war raged on, with millions of lives lost and landscapes forever altered. The face of warfare was irrevocably changed, and the world was left to grapple with the consequences of this war to end all wars. As the war progressed, several key events shifted the balance of power. World War I was a conflict of unparalleled scale and devastation, but it was not without its turning points. These pivotal moments shaped the course of the war and ultimately led to its conclusion. The entry of the United States into the war in April of 1917 marked a significant turning point. Having previously maintained a policy of neutrality, the United States' decision to join the Allies added a fresh injection of resources and manpower, tipping the scales in their favor. Meanwhile, in Russia, the political landscape was undergoing a seismic shift. The Russian Revolution of 1917 led to the overthrow of the Tsarist regime and the establishment of a communist government. This resulted in Russia exiting the war to deal with its internal turmoil, freeing up Central Powers' resources on the Eastern Front. Last but not least, the failure of Germany's spring offensive in 1918 was another crucial turning point. Germany had hoped this massive attack would knock the Allies out of the war before the full force of the United States could be brought to bear. Unfortunately for Germany, the offensive failed, leaving their forces exhausted and demoralized. These turning points set the stage for the end of the war. With the Central Powers weakened and the Allies strengthened, negotiations for peace began. This culminated in the signing of the Treaty of Versailles in June of 1919, formally ending the state of war between Germany and the Allied powers. The treaty, however, was controversial. It placed full blame for the war on Germany and Austria-Hungary, required them to pay substantial reparations, and restricted their military capabilities. Many believe this harsh treatment sowed the seeds for future conflicts. And so World War I ended, leaving a world forever changed. The war reshaped nations, redefined warfare, and left a lasting impact on the global consciousness. It was a conflict that transformed the 20th century, and its echoes can still be felt today. The end of World War I marked the beginning of a new era. As the dust of conflict settled, dramatic shifts occurred on political, economic, and social stages globally. Empires crumbled, giving birth to new nations. The Russian, Ottoman, German, and Austro-Hungarian empires were no more. From their ashes rose new countries, their borders drawn by victors with little regard for ethnic or cultural coherence. Economically, the war left Europe in ruins. Cities were decimated, farmlands destroyed, and economies shattered. The cost of war, both in lives lost and resources expended, was astronomical. Socially, people were disillusioned. The Great War had promised to be the war to end all wars, yet it only seemed to breed resentment and discontent. Women, having stepped into roles traditionally held by men, began to demand equal rights. The world hoped for lasting peace, but as history shows us, this was not to be. As we close this chapter, another waits to be opened. The end of World War I marked the beginning of an era filled with tension and uncertainty. This interwar period saw the world grappling with the aftermath of a great conflict, setting the stage for the even more devastating World War II. What were the key events during this time? What led the world to another global conflict? Join us next time as we explore the tumultuous period following World War I and the beginnings of World War II. Remember to subscribe to Mr. Coder Explains for more historical insights.